Hey, welcome back. This is Justin Jordan again. I'm going to go ahead and start off this specific section for us here, targeting our new Webex calling dedicated instance product. Now, new is probably not a good word for it. It has been around, of course, for a year, and it really is effectively the next generation aspect of our overall cloud offered UCM platform that Cisco offers to our customers. But let's go ahead and take a look at dedicated instance, and let me give you an idea of how we're going to get started, and then I'm going to transition into two other speakers here that will take you even deeper into both dedicated instance as well as a lot of the connectivity requirements and the PSTN requirements that we have for our overall Webex calling solutions. Let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to try to demystify dedicated instance. The good part is I think most of you know what dedicated instance is now. After all, it has been out for a year. But let's take a look at what this section is going to cover here. So we want to make sure we understand Webex calling dedicated instance, and more specifically how it's positioned against other products, as well as even our own product in Webex calling native. We'll ultimately need to figure out what's the best way to position this for customers, how do we talk about it, and then of course the different aspects effectively of the product and our operational advantages that we offer in the solution. So let me ask you a question. When you walk into a customer, who do you think our biggest competition is? Now, this is the biggest aspect that is very difficult, because when you think about dedicated instance, a lot of times we're positioning dedicated instance probably in a position where our competitors cannot offer anything like that. And while there's a competitive advantage, of course, to having that solution, there's also a very much a uncompetitive nature of us losing because we're maybe positioning the difference between, let's say, an apple and a bowling ball. So when I ask you who are we competing against, if you really look at it, of course, there's the usual players out there that we talk about all the time, but notice Cisco is actually usually the case. And this is difficult because when you walk in the door, if a customer is an existing Cisco CUCM customer, logically you would think, hey, dedicated instance is probably the first thing I should position because their familiarity with it, their functionality set with it. But are we really doing that customer a good service? Because honestly, CUCM is a very big, vast, just capable system, but most customers are using less than probably 3% of the features that CUCM has. So when we talk about the transition to cloud with the customer, we want to talk about the transition into the right product and effectively also the right persona for the user. So if you think about it, right, in the old days, we had 95% of our users probably all had the same common feature set, same common 15 to 20 features they used, but we had those 5%, right? Those 5% that needed those extra special things. Well, with Communications Manager, that was no problem. We could do crazy stuff for those 5%, and then the other 95% kind of got what was left. But it also became cumbersome for those 95% if we wanted to, let's say, give them soft phone capability or mobile phone capability, right? Those were very difficult things and added a lot of burdens to a lot of our customers. Hence the reason why we probably never got the actual adoption levels we really wanted, right, in some of our soft phone applications. So if we think about this, now if we break our users into personas, the typical home worker or hybrid worker, or the typical office worker, or those extra special people like the actual assistant to the CEO, or nurses stations and hospitals, or whatever the case might be, let's make sure we assign the right solution to the right persona, because that effectively is going to allow us to be very good at what we're trying to do and really have a great 1-2 punch with both Webex calling on the multi-tenant side as well as Webex calling then on the dedicated instance side. So I like to position Webex calling this way. Webex calling is like a mountain. Well, you're thinking, wow, that's an interesting thought, but let me explain it to you a little bit more like this. When you climb a mountain, you got to start at the bottom, right? And you climb all the way to the top. If there was a way for them to take me up in a helicopter and have me stand at the top of Everest, I would do it, because then I could say I climbed Mount Everest. But did I really climb it? No, I didn't. And that's why you must walk up the mountain. So when we talk about Webex basically calling in general, because Webex calling is a product, we want to talk about this way. You need to start from the bottom and you need to work your way up to the top. What do we mean by that? If you don't present Webex calling multi-tenant, our standard Webex calling option, to a customer, you do not show them Control Hub, you don't show them the Webex app, you don't show them the simplest aspects of basically configuration and building the platform for the customer, you're never going to be able to get back down to that level. If you walk into a customer and say, hey, you have CUCM, here's Webex calling dedicated instance, they're not going to ever entertain Webex calling. And the reason why that's a problem, though, is that, remember, we're going to talk about that in this section, but Webex calling dedicated instance has other things that are required. Webex calling dedicated instance is a private cloud offer. Therefore, it requires private cloud connectivity. And that changes the cost model. My two colleagues will talk about that here in a second, but we want to talk about how that when you work your way up the mountain, you're very successful. You're showing everything that Cisco's doing. You start with Webex calling, you work your way up to dedicated instance if Webex calling does not meet the customer's needs, and the last thing you should be talking about is premise. Because really, when you head up the mountain, cost and complexity go up. Now, a lot of you are probably saying, well, Justin, that's funny. Premise licensing is cheaper. Part of the discussion point we're going to be talking about, and you heard me talk about in the competitive section, is don't let the cost of the license deter or be the understandable amount a customer thinks they're paying. It's all those extra things in the total cost of ownership of a solution that we need to make sure our customers understand. Premise has a high total cost of ownership now because they're not building big data centers out. They're not building big VMware farms. All those extra underlying applications it takes to run those farms. Customers are moving to the cloud now because the divergence between cloud and prem from a cost standpoint has come so close, and even cloud has even surpassed it in some aspects of premise versus cloud. So let's take a look at that. I'm going to go ahead and introduce our next presenter, and he will talk about dedicated instance as a product. Over to you, Sunny.
Thank you, Justin. Hello, everyone. My name is Sunny Akira, and today I'm going to talk about Webex calling dedicated instance. So what is Webex calling dedicated instance? It's a cloud instance or cloud option based on the Cisco Unified Communications Managed architecture. So if you look at the image on the right, you've got multi-tenant and DI. Dedicated instance or DI is an add-on to Webex calling. This provides a flexibility that no other competitor can provide, where customers can move users to either multi-tenant or the dedicated instance platforms based on the user persona or the integrations or the feature requirements. So what does DI include? It comes with this 5 standard applications: the Cisco Unified Communications Manager, Cisco Unity Connection for voicemail, JAB IMNP for presence, emergency responder for emergency calling, and this is only deployed in North America, Expressway for MRA calls. We support both Jabber and Webex app, although Webex app is our go-to app. UCCX is not part of the standard offering, but UCCX can be deployed either in IaaS, which is an add-on, or it can be deployed in the partner premise as far as the round-trip delay is less than 60 milliseconds. Finally, DI is now live with version 14 SU2. So what can the customer expect moving to the cloud? Number one, no disruptions. We provide the rich feature set. We provide full redundancy with both the infrastructure and the connectivity. So we provide 4 nines for SLA. So it's a robust API platform. Call Manager has been there for over 2 decades. So you got a plethora of customers, or plethora of vendors rather, who've built applications based on using these APIs, and those applications can still be leveraged with DI, compatible with the full endpoint portfolio. Familiar user experience. Most of the admins at the customer, the partner side, who are CCIs, have used Call Manager and its interface for the longest period of time, so they get the same familiar experience with DI. Cisco Contact Center interoperability, and finally, the security is built in. That's the highest level of emphasis that we put into our cloud offerings. So flexible path to the cloud. We talked about this early on, where customers can migrate users from premise to either the multi-tenant platform or the dedicated instance platform, or both. So based on the user persona. It can be sales, and sales are on the go, and perhaps multi-tenant is better suited. Whereas your back office with its multiple integrations, dedicated instance is better suited. So a customer can leverage the flexibility of both platforms and move users to either platforms or both. DI is an add-on to multi WebEx calling. So as part of the DI activation, the interop between the multi-tenant platform and DI is activated as part of activation. There's no additional licenses needed. So when users are deployed across platforms, they can interrupt right away. So let's take an example of an international logistics company. So this customer, if you notice, they've got presence in Americas, EMEA, APJC, and Australia. Let's look at the different departments. If you focus to the left bottom corner, you got headquarters, which is using dedicated instance. The sales is using multi-tenant. Support, because there's a contact center integration, is using dedicated instance, whereas shipping requires rich integrations and specialized devices, and that requires dedicated instance. So again, going back to what we mentioned early on, based on what the user requires, customers can move the users to the appropriate platforms, thus providing that flexibility to our customers. All right, so what is the admin experience? It's a single pane of glass experience with WebEx calling and DI, and that is nothing but the control hub. So admins can log into control hub and access and manage users both on WebEx calling multi-tenant and DI. So what is that experience? We talked about familiar experience with call manager, right? But since control hub is a single pane of glass experience, admins can log into control hub and cross-launch to the necessary applications, be it call manager, Unity connection, IMP, and manage users' configurations over the top, fully secure. So this is a great experience, especially where admins do not have to VPN or be in the network to manage their customers. License summary. Again, license summary is part of our control hub webpage, where all the licensing is centralized within the subscription section. DI, since it is an add-on to WebEx calling, the licensing is normalized to the WebEx calling constructs, which is professional licenses and workspaces. If an admin or a user would like to get more details as to what the license consumption is per cluster or per region, you have an option to drill down further and identify that information as well. Analytics. DI provides rich analytics. We provide quality metrics, feature adoption, asset usage, and that includes all the headsets and endpoints, engagement analytics, and finally capacity analysis, which helps with tracking capacity and increasing the capacity of a trunk or a gateway. DI redundancy. So DI is a fully redundant platform. So if you notice on the image, we got DC1 and DC2. So each region, be it Americas, EMEA, APJC, Australia, we've got two data centers within a single region where all the applications are split equally. So this provides that geo-redundancy and clustering across the WAN. We also mandate dual connections into our data centers. So you got WAN redundancy. And finally, within each data center, the hardware is fully redundant. Right? So let's talk about connectivity. Again, I will not dive deep into this. We've got a full section on connectivity, but DI is a private cloud, and we mandate private peering for dedicated instance. The current options that's available are Webex Edge Connect using Equinix or Megaport. We've got Partner Connect, where partner peers with Webex and aggregates all their customer connections and brings those connections over their peering. And the third option is Virtual Connect or VPN. We also allow users to register over the top using MRA to call manager in the dedicated instance. Integrated audio. Again, since Webex meetings and Webex calling is part of our Webex cloud, we enable integrated audio for Webex, which is on-net calling for Webex meetings by default. This has heavy cost savings for customers who use call-in and call-back feature, and thus providing a single experience, a cloud experience for our customer. Finally, the positioning slide. Always start from the bottom. Always start with Webex calling, its benefits, and work your way up with your customer, talking to your customer. If they have specialized requirements, they can add on DI. And finally, premise is your last resort if the customer is completely cloud averse. With that, I'm going to hand this off to Kashif to talk about peering. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Kashif Masnu and I'm a Senior Product Manager with Webex Calling. Today, as part of the virtual roadshow for Webex Calling, I am going to talk about some of the connectivity options that may be available to your customers to connect into the Cisco Webex Calling solution. First of all, to understand what are the objectives of this session here. In this session, we're going to talk about what are the different options. We make sure that you understand which options provide access to what services, why Webex Edge Connect is considered the best option, and essentially understand some of the nuances around figuring out how much bandwidth is required for the customers. Just to baseline or set up the baseline here, what is connectivity? Why is connectivity needed here? Like any other cloud service, the big piece of Webex calling essentially is running in the Cisco cloud, in the Webex cloud. Your customers and users are either on-premise or trying to join from their homes. So what is connectivity here? Connectivity is the path which the end user and their devices use to connect to our cloud. Webex calling, the multi-tenant solution, is primarily an OTT solution, or over-the-top solution, where the customer and the end users just come through the internet and they can utilize and consume the Webex calling services that are running in our cloud. This is exactly in the mold of any other cloud solution. For cloud services, customers are looking for simplicity, and Webex calling really provides that. You don't need an expensive peering solution. It's not needed. OTT works perfectly fine. Every customer can use it right off, just right out of the box, essentially. However, for those customers that feel that they needed private peering, where they feel that they need a more secure solution than the internet, they need a solution that provides better quality of service than the internet, we have a couple of options available for them. And those are for Webex calling multi-tenant or Edge Connect or Partner Connect. So essentially, bottom line, for Webex calling multi-tenant, primary option is to go over the top using the internet. However, for those customers that need something specific, some private peering because of security or quality of service, private peering options are available. And we are going to discuss those options in detail in the next couple of slides. As we move into dedicated instance, which is the second deployment option for Webex calling, private peering is a required solution. It is not optional. So either Webex Edge Connect or Partner Connect or Virtual Connect, one of those peering solutions are required as part of dedicated instance. End users that are not at the customer premise, maybe joining from their home office or on the road from hotels or places like that, they can still come in and register their phones and make phone calls and do all of those things over the internet using the standard CUCM based mobile remote access, expressway-based mobile remote access option. So that option is there, but the primary option for dedicated instance connectivity is private peering. And again, for private peering, you need to have peering in each geographic location or region. So as you may have heard from Sunny earlier on, dedicated instances deployed on a per region basis. So a customer may need dedicated instance in Americas, in EMEA, and APJ, and they would have their own deployments. So if they are deploying in more than one region, they would need peering in each of the regions. So we're going to discuss what are those options. The options are, as I said, Edge Connect, Partner Connect, or Virtual Connect. So what is dedicated instance partner peering or Partner Connect? Partner Connect is basically a solution where some of our biggest partners, mostly service providers, but some of the big VARs as well, have established these big pipes connecting their network to the Cisco Webex network. These pipes are running through Equinix locations. They're anywhere from 50 meg to 100 GB pipes, depending on the partner. And what the partners can do is they can use these pipes to create individual circuits for their customers. So, for example, let's say a company A, B, and C, ABC company, they purchase Webex calling dedicated instance through a partner XYZ, and the partner is already connected. The partner can connect the customer to their network, and using the partner peering can pass the end customer's traffic via the service provider or partner's network towards Cisco. In this case, the peering is already established with the partner. So from an end customer perspective, this is a much easier solution to deploy. So, and then from a partner perspective, it provides partners some additional value that they can pass over to the end customer. It provides stickiness, so the customer has to stick around with the partner. It allows partner to sell their bundled network services with this application, with this solution. So all in all, it's a pretty good solution, right? For Cisco, it makes it easy for all of you sellers who are out there trying to sell Webex calling. It makes it easy to position this because the whole complexity of getting the connectivity done is now off the customer's hand. The partner is doing all of that. A lot of it is already established. It's fairly easy to bring it up and start running with it. So this makes the whole solution fairly simple and easy to deploy for an end customer, and the partner has value that they can add to the solution. Most of the big partners that are partner peers have already done this. They're very actively in the market selling this. So if you are working with a customer, with a partner that is peered already with Cisco, partner peering is probably the best solution for your customer. The next option for peering is to use Webex Edge Connect via Equinix. Webex Edge Connect has been used as a connectivity option for about 3+ years now for Webex meetings and other Webex services, and it's also available for dedicated instance, Webex calling multi-tenant or meetings. So basically, the idea here is that the solution that has been out there for Webex meetings for a while can now be utilized for Edge Connect, for dedicated instance and multi-tenant as well, for calling solutions as well. The best part is that for customers that are using a suite, full services, meetings, calling, messaging, they can run one physical connection to Equinix and essentially run all of those services over that solution. The whole solution, Edge Connect solution, is based off of the Equinix Fabric. Equinix Fabric is this whole network around the globe of Equinix locations, data centers that are connected together. So this gives us a great option to expand peering or expand our solution in countries and cities where we don't have physical presence. So for example, let's say in Americas, our dedicated instance data centers are in Silicon Valley, San Jose, and Dallas. Now, not every customer has to come and peer with us in Dallas. Let's say a customer is there and they already have some co-location with Equinix in Boston. They can connect from Boston to Dallas and from Boston to Silicon Valley or San Jose through the Equinix Fabric. So that makes it easy for the customers to connect into our services, connect into our network. Yes, Equinix charges for these services, but those charges are fairly suitable for the type of service they're providing. And to the end customer, a lot of the end customers also use the Fabric for other cloud services like Azure and AWS. All of those are available on the Fabric as well. So if you talk to some of our biggest customers, they really like the solution because it helps them gather together their connectivity to different cloud services into one location using the Equinix Fabric. If we go back to the previous slide quickly here to point out a few things. For an Edge Connect solution, we would need one link per data center, or 2 links per region at a minimum. Again, going back to the Americas example, if you have San Jose and Dallas, we will need a link to San Jose and a link to Dallas. Now the charges for this, Webex, Cisco, we charge a certain subscription for this connectivity, and Equinix also charges the customer for this connectivity. So make sure that when you're talking about Edge Connect, make sure you engage your Equinix counterparts earlier on, or have the customer engage their Equinix representative earlier on to make sure they understand all the cost implications and the deployment timeline and everything. But this is a great solution, especially for those customers that are already in Equinix co-locations, customers that are already using Equinix Fabric for other cloud services. This really helps them aggregate their network into single pipes. Again, as you can see, the geographical layout is pretty widespread. All of the EMEA is very, very well covered. Americas, we have multiple data center locations where Equinix is present and can connect to us. Same for APJ. So it allows, pretty good connectivity, pretty good network in terms of being able to connect to Cisco Webex calling. Now the third solution, by the way, one quick point. The Equinix Edge Connect, as I said earlier on, I believe I did, works for dedicated instance, multi-tenant, Webex meetings, and Webex messaging. So anybody who's using the whole suite, great option. Moving on next, the third option that we have, which is only available for dedicated instance, is the Virtual Connect option. Basically, this is nothing but a GRE over IPsec VPN tunnel going through the internet. This provides a certain level of security, certain level of private peering. The traffic is not exposed on the internet. It doesn't provide dedicated bandwidth because it still utilizes the internet, but it does provide security and provide a secure solution. Again, we need two of these VPNs, one going to individual to the 2 data centers that we have in the region. So again, going back to the examples, if we take EMEA, for example, we have 2 locations in EMEA at this point, London and Amsterdam. So if a customer wants to do VPN or Virtual Connect in EMEA, they will need to have one GRE IPsec tunnel going to Amsterdam, the other one going to London, both up and running at the same time. This is also a paid solution. There is a subscription charge to it. So if you go look under A-Flex, you will see A-Flex 3. You would see in the connectivity options, you will see Virtual Connect being one of the options. So make sure you add that in the subscription. So these are the 3 main options that we have. Now, a couple of important points to note. Number 1, in any single region or within the region, the two connections that we need for individual data centers, they have to be the same type. So for example, if in Americas a customer decides to go with Edge Connect, both the San Jose and the Dallas connections need to be Edge Connect. You cannot mix Edge Connect with VPN within the region. However, for those customers that are multinational or multi-region, we have the flexibility of the customer using different connectivity options for different regions. So it is perfectly okay for a customer to use Partner Connect in Americas, but Edge Connect or VPN in the other regions. That is acceptable. And that's a very common solution that you will see being deployed, especially for those customers that have a heavy deployment in one region. So for example, the customer has a lot of users in the US, but not that many users in EMEA or APJ. They might go with an Edge Connect or Partner Connect in the US or in Americas, but they may go with a VPN option in the other regions because they may not have as many users, or they may not have Equinix co-location in that region. So that helps them, being easy to deploy the VPN solution in those regions. So that option is available. We have that flexibility to provide access to different types of connectivity in the different regions. So one of the big items when you talk about connectivity is how much bandwidth do I need? As we looked at earlier on, Edge Connect, for example, comes with any variation from 250 meg or 200 meg all the way to 10 gig. How much bandwidth do I need? Well, for any customer, the amount of bandwidth they need will obviously vary a lot. But here are some of the things or some of the factors to keep note of. The one biggest one is going to be how the customer consumes PSTN. As you will see in the next session, there are basically two main types of PSTN connections. One is the local breakout on-premise. The other is a cloud-connected option, whether Cisco provided or a partner provided. But if the customer is using a cloud-connected option, that means that for every PSTN call, the traffic is going through these peering links into the cloud, which means that you have to factor in bandwidth needed for all of those PSTN calls. However, if the customer is using a local breakout option, then the PSTN calls are essentially going through SIP trunks on-premise, which means that traffic is never coming into the cloud. So you don't have to factor those in. The other big one is integrated audio calls. Integrated audio is those users or those calls where users pick up the phone and they either try to dial into a Webex meeting or get a call back from Webex meeting. Webex meeting is in the Cisco cloud or the Webex cloud, and the user is on-prem. So all the media for an integrated call goes through the same peering links. The other big factor, MRA calls. As I noted on earlier on, MRA access is through the internet. It's provided from the Cisco data centers directly. Any customer, any user that is connected through MRA essentially registers their phone and all of their calls into the Cisco cloud directly, right? Expressway is sitting in Cisco cloud. So when that user picks up the phone and they dial a PSTN number through a local breakout, or they dial in an extension for an end user that is sitting in the office, that call goes through the peering connection as well. And that could be significant, especially if you consider today's typical scenario where a lot of people are working from home or something like COVID happens or another shutdown happens for whatever reason. A lot of people may end up going home. In that case, MRA call traffic is going to be significant. So we need to make sure that we factor the MRA traffic into these. After that, I think obviously the number of users and endpoints, you multiply all of those traffic by the number of users. And then the very typical, traffic bandwidth shaping or bandwidth calculating factors. What is the average call hold time? How many calls for voicemail or media on hold? What is your BHCA? All of those factors come in. So it doesn't need to be as complicated, but you need to make sure you understand how your customer is going to use these different services, and then use all of those factors to figure out the exact amount of bandwidth, or not the exact, but an approximate amount of bandwidth needed. Typically though, for a voice solution, it's not that much. Meetings requires a lot of bandwidth. Voice, 100 kbps per call, not a whole lot of bandwidth. So fairly, you can get a pretty decent approximation in fairly short amount of calculation. You don't really need a very extensive calculator to go through all of these. So the other thing that I do want to talk about is Megaport. I'm sure some of you may have heard that we have supported Megaport now. What is Megaport? It's very similar to Equinix. Megaport is also a network provider across the globe. We are working with Megaport. It's an EFT at this point. Supposed to come out GA somewhere around early 2023 calendar year. If you have a customer that is using Megaport today and want to be part of the EFT, please reach out to us and we can get them in. Important to note though, Megaport, from a cost perspective, it is not a low cost solution. It's very much in line with Equinix costs. However, what Megaport does is that it provides additional POP locations around the globe. So the network that you saw for Equinix, the similar network is available for Megaport. So now the amount of POPs that are available for a customer to connect, they easily double up pretty fast. So that really, adds more extension into what we can do. Quick summary, which options have a cost to them, which options provide dedicated bandwidth, and which different solutions can utilize the option. If you look at this here, Partner Connect and Edge Connect are obviously the best options, especially for those customers that are using a full Webex suite, because it runs through calling, meetings, and messaging. All services are provided. So to summarize, important takeaways: Webex calling is available over the top. Dedicated instance is not. It requires peering. And Edge Connect and Partner Connect are the best options that you have for peering. That's basically it. Peering is great because it provides security and quality of service to the end customer. And a lot of the end customers really like that. That's all for today from this session. I hope you are enjoying the virtual roadshow and learning a lot. We look forward to seeing you sell more of Webex calling and helping you guys implement that. Thank you very much.
My name is François Doremieux. I'm the Director of PSTN Services in Webex Calling Program Management, and I'm here to share our PSTN options, a set of rich and competitive options for our customers to make it easy to support Webex calling and associated services such as Webex Calling Contact Center, Webex Calling Dedicated Instance, and others, wholesale and so on, for the purpose of PSTN services. So today our goal is to make sure that you know the key aspects of the options that our customers can pick from, understand how they can be positioned in a differentiated manner. They are not exactly equivalent. There's advantages to some depending on what the customer is trying to do, as well as understanding some of the competitive advantages of our PSTN strategy. And then we'll spend a little bit more time on Cisco calling plans and have a little bit more depth on that. One key and important word in the domain of what we do in the PSTN space is replacement, PSTN replacement. This is something that we make sure that every service that we provide, that we certify, that we offer is capable of full PSTN replacement. What does that mean? It means it's a regulated service that's capable of meeting all the regulatory requirements. That includes typically providing phone number, emergency calling, and some other required capabilities, such as in the US tier shaken, which we support, legal intercept, all those kind of things. Not all of our competitors offer PSTN replacement for all the options they offer, so it's actually quite important to understand that difference. We are making sure that when you pick from one of our options, your service is going to be PSTN replacement capable, fully compliant, fully regulatory compliant. You can obtain new numbers, or you can actually port existing numbers. There's a few exceptions in a few countries where that's not supported, but otherwise, if it's supported, that's what we intend to offer. Of course, we receive incoming calls and all the things that go with that, and maintain your emergency service address. So that's what PSTN replacement is, and that's what we offer. Our PSTN selection is optimized for flexibility, and as such, you can have a different PSTN option per location. So if you have multiple countries, multiple locations, you could potentially, or maybe you have legacy contracts with carriers, you can have multiple PSTN providers for the same customer, one per location. You can manage all of this centrally within Control Hub. Note that if you're using Cisco calling plans, you can only have one subscription per location, PSTN subscription per location, but otherwise you can have multiple PSTN subscriptions, and you can have Cisco calling plan in one location and something else in another location. That's okay. So what are these options that we offer? There's three main families of options. And again, you can mix and match. We, of course, continue to offer local gateways. Those are quite important, especially for extremely large customers, very large, complex customers, some specific markets. That's the option that offers the widest range of country coverage, obviously. And for migrations, customers that start from, for example, UCM on-prem will find that leveraging the gateway can be a very good way to go to Webex calling and then go to cloud calling. Doing both at the same time may or may not be the best way. So using the local gateway as a path to the cloud can be a very interesting way. We then have a second category, cloud-connected PSTN partners. These are partners, providers that we've actually worked in depth with in order to make sure that they can deliver regulatory compliant and certified capabilities that work well with Webex tooling. So the process is that they go through certification, interconnection with us. We make sure that there is full resiliency in that interconnection. It's high quality interconnection with full failover, those type of things. Then we can list them for you. And we have very broad coverage of that option, more than 65 markets at this point in time, number of providers growing very quickly. For those of us who've been around for a period of time, you know that we used to have service providers as well. Those service providers, we've now combined into this program as well. So they are actually part of the Cloud Connected PSTN partner. And they follow exactly the same process, the same requirements, the same interconnection, and we can select them in the same manner. And last but not least, we have Cisco Calling Plans. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. But Cisco Calling Plans is a regulatory compliant PSTN replacement solution as well as the other two. It's provided by Cisco, so it's Cisco SKUs and invoices, and you transact with your partners in the same way that you would transact for the other things that you buy from Cisco. We currently cover 19 markets. Of course, that represents the extreme majority of where Webex calling is being used today, but we're continuing to grow that. It's a simple packaging, so unlike the cloud-connected PSTN partner offers, which typically are done with a huge range of capabilities and where you can put them in competition for specific feature pricing, Cisco Calling Plans is a simple packaging, simple set of features, simple pricing, and it's only available for Webex calling MT. It's intended for knowledge workers, so it's not applicable to high volume usage contact centers, complex use cases, and so on. And there's a fair use policy attached to that. So if you think of a customer that has simple needs, very good fit. If the needs end up being a little bit more complex, typically that's where our partners come in. Let's talk a little bit about positioning. This is a super simple and oversimplifying view of the segmentation, but of course, from very, very small customers all the way to extremely large customers, there's different needs in PSTN and different pricing and different capabilities. What we find is that Cisco Calling Plans typically fits well for SMB and mid-market, and in some cases with the enterprise market, but not systematically. And that's because the packaging that enterprises and multinationals look for is typically different. It's not a PSTN package. It's typically a lower price point per trunk or per minute type of packaging. And that's typically something that we find our partners do better than we do. Or complex integration type of programs that typically come with PSTN as well. So it's not to say that you cannot use Cisco Calling Plans in enterprise and multinational, but typically we find that the better fit is in mid-market and small enterprise. So let's talk a little bit about gateway. You can use Webex calling with a local gateway pretty much anywhere in the world. There are some countries where we don't offer service yet. We've been expanding that very, very quickly. We're now at more than 120 markets supported for Webex calling. But at large, if the market is supported for Webex calling, you can use a local gateway. And there's very, very fast growth of the number of markets we support. Local gateways can be deployed on customer premises. I'm sure that's a very familiar concept for all of us, as well as partner hosted, where the partner hosts and manage the customer's local gateway, for example, vCube. Typically, if there is a local PBX or SBC, it's better to use the on-premise gateways. Second category, cloud-connected PSTN providers. More than 65 countries, fast growing. We're growing the number of providers also very quickly. We're happy to welcome right now Pure IP and bandwidth and more to the list as we continue growing and expanding our geographic coverage as well. This is cloud PSTN provided by a range of providers that you can put in comparison or competition. You can look at the packaging, you can look at their feature set. They have the broadest feature set, much broader than what we are able to offer at this point in time in Cisco calling plans. So for example, today, if you need inbound toll-free, if you need some support for contact center or high volume, that's the way to go. Cloud-connected PSTN providers can do that, and we are not able to do that in Cisco calling plans. We peer with those providers so that the customer can directly select them from Control Hub, doesn't need any trunking, any capability. It's zero setup. Just establish a commercial contract with the PSTN provider, and here you go, import the numbers, start service. One key aspect of the cloud-connected PSTN provider offering is that it supports multiple services. Of course, it supports the Webex calling multi-tenant, if you will, the standard Webex calling. It also supports dedicated instance and wholesale and Webex contact center. Now it might be a different SKU for the service provider, but typically through that one trunk, one peering that they've established with us, set of trunks, they are able to serve the full range of capabilities. We support regional media, which means that partners that interconnect locally, we will keep the media locally. Let's say that you have a small site in Australia and you're using a service provider in Australia for that is a CCPP. The media will remain in Australia. It will not go through the US, even though your main site might be in the US. Last but not least is calling plans. So we're at this point in 19 countries. And we've been fast growing. This is a rollout that happened over the past 18 months or so. So quite significant investment. So what do people get with a Cisco calling plan? They get a telephone number. They can get an outbound calling plan. Now, if they don't want to place outbound calls, they don't need the outbound calling plan. But typically, you can get a phone number, an outbound calling plan, and then you can make international and premium calls in addition. Those are the three main elements. That phone number can be a new phone number, or it can be a phone number you port into our service. We support porting. And one competitive advantage we have over the likes of Microsoft and Zoom is that customers can really purchase and provision what they need. To the extent they're using a phone number with extension, they can buy the phone number and associate it to multiple users with the extensions. The users would each have an OCP to place outbound call, but they can share that phone number. To the extent some phones or some users don't need outbound calling, they don't need an OCP, they might just get a telephone number. Telephone number comes with emergency services, by the way. So it's actually more flexible than the bundle that our competitors offer, in which they cannot separate the phone number and the OCP. And that's a way that our customers can get a better service, can get a better economics, and purchase exactly what they need. Again, this is intended for information or knowledge worker use, not high usage scenarios, not contact centers, this type of things. We're working on supporting this type of things in the future, but at this point in time, it's not a capability. The capability to receive calls and place calls starts around $3.50. That doesn't include international and premium calls, but that will let you do unlimited subject to terms of use. Of course, fair use applies. Calls per month, $3.50, which is quite aggressive. Outbound calling plans, to the other SKU descriptions. You can have the committed version and the uncommitted version. Named user, EA. What's the difference between committed and uncommitted? Well, the committed is procured as you would for example, the Webex calling Flex licenses, and is going to be for the duration of the contract. The charge will be recurring. It will be part of the normal SKUs that Cisco charges. For the uncommitted, let's say that you have a seasonality in your number of users and you need to give them the ability to place calls during that time, the summer maybe, or whatever it is. You can give them, you can enable them, and we're going to count the number of licenses you've enabled just for that duration, and charge on a daily basis as a usage. And that's going to be on your PSTN invoice. In order to provision Cisco calling plans, you need at least one committed outbound calling plan. And that's and of course one committed flex, and that's all you need. And then you can start with uncommitted if you want. So there is very low commitment and cost to start with this. And of course, once you know what you need, you might optimize the cost by using committed licenses at that time. Telephone numbers are all usage-based, and we charge them on the basis of the days that you own the phone numbers. So day by day, we verify how many phone numbers the customer owns, and the invoice will compute the number of days times phone numbers and charge on a daily rate for that. That daily rate equates $1 per month per number, but it's not assessed as on a per month basis, it's assessed on a per day basis. You cannot order phone numbers in CCW, it's all in Control Hub. Metered calling is used for international and long distance, and sorry, not long distance, international. Long distance is included, but for international and for premium, you're going to find that both phone numbers and metered callings have a SKU called non-local. That non-local is when you procure most of your PSTN, for example, in the US, and you have an office in London, and you assign some of the licenses you procured to the London office, you're going to find that on the invoice marked as non-local. There is no difference in pricing or anything like this otherwise. Cisco calling plans are sold through our partners. There is, because of regulatory aspect, a specific model in how they're sold in the United States, where the partner's role is as agent, not as a reseller. Everywhere else in the world, we use the reseller role, and there is a normal Cisco resell model with a discount price, and the partner can mark up, and we have a recommended Cisco recommended price. But in the US, the partner has to use the invoice we prepare, the price we prepare, and essentially turn that around exactly in the same manner, and then we provide a commission to the partner. I mentioned this briefly, but in order to buy and provision, well, first the partners must accept the terms of enrollment in PP. Place an order in CCW for at least one committed Webex calling license and for at least one committed outbound calling plan OCP on behalf of the customer. Do not order any phone number. This will be done in Control Hub. This is provisioned in Control Hub. So locations created into calling, the locations associated with Cisco calling plans, and then we can provision the outbound calling plans purchased in CCW to users in that location and order phone numbers. Invoicing. Again, committed outbound calling plans will be shown as recurring. It's invoiced together with your Flex subscription. Uncommitted OCP will be usage and will be on the PSTN invoice. Telephone number, same thing. International call and premium call, same thing. One of the things we are trying to do is to facilitate the migration to Cisco calling plans, and you'll find that we have published recently a number portability tool on the link that's here. It's actually on our webex.com main page. So if you're interested in porting your numbers to Cisco calling plans, you can verify whether they're portable to Cisco calling plans in the US and Canada, coming to the rest of the world, and then order the port. Porting is a complex aspect, and sometimes it requires humans to help. While we automate the process as much as possible, we have the best technical desk in the business called PTS, and PTS is available to you to help for your ports. In summary, we have the best options, and all of our options are PSTN replacement. That's quite important. We discussed the pros and cons of each option. For example, you might use local gateways for migration from on-prem, or in countries in which we don't have cloud PSTN. You might use Cisco calling plans for simpler knowledge worker type of situations. You might use our partners, CTPP, where your needs are the most complex, or where Cisco calling plans are not represented. So there's slight difference in positioning here, but we have the broadest range of PSTN options. Quite important to understand, we support a huge range of services with those PSTN options, and in particular with our partner options. CCPP support MT, DI, contact center in most cases, wholesale, and that's a huge list of PSTN partners that enable you for that. Our competitors don't have the same range of capabilities supported by the same partners. So that's another competitive advantage. And then we spent quite a bit of time looking at Cisco calling plans in terms of the offers and the process, and understanding the details of that, and how you can procure it and provision it, and what is being invoiced. Thank you very much for your attention, and feel free to reach out with any question.